My name's David. I don't usually share personal stories like this, but what happened to me deserves to be told. Some people will call it karma. Some will call it justice. But for me, it was survival. I had been married to my wife, Linda, for 22 years. We weren't perfect, no marriages, but I always believed we had something real. We built a home together, raised our daughter, and weathered storms that would have torn other couples apart. At least, that's what I thought. Our daughter, Emily, was getting married. She's my pride and joy, the kind of daughter any father would thank God for. Smart, kind, and determined to build the kind of family she never really saw at home. That wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. And honestly, I was living for that moment. I wanted nothing more than to walk her down the aisle with dignity. But in the weeks leading up to the ceremony, I noticed Linda acting strangely. Late nights out, secretive phone calls, locking her phone when she never used to. I had suspicions. Of course, anyone would. But I told myself, don't ruin Emily's big day, David. Whatever's going on, deal with it after. Still, there was this tension between us that even Emily noticed. She asked me a few nights before the wedding, "Dad, are you and Mom okay?" I smiled, lied through my teeth, and told her we were fine. She didn't need to carry our burdens into her marriage. By the morning of the wedding, I had convinced myself to bury it all. I wore my best suit, straightened my tie, and told myself, this day is not about me. It's about Emily. The church was full of people, family, friends, co-workers. Everyone was smiling, laughing, taking pictures. Emily was radiant, standing in the back in her white dress, ready to walk down the aisle. And then it happened, just as I was adjusting my cufflinks. Preparing to escort my daughter, Linda stepped in front of me. She wasn't holding flowers. She wasn't holding her purse. She was holding an envelope. She shoved it against my chest with this cold little smirk on her face. "Consider yourself served," she whispered. It took me a second to process it. Divorce papers. At my daughter's wedding. In front of everyone. I swear, the whole room went quiet. Guests craned their necks, whispering. Some of Emily's bridesmaids gasped. My daughter froze at the end of the aisle, confusion all over her face. And Linda? She looked triumphant, like she had planned this moment for months, like she wanted to humiliate me in front of every person I loved. But what she didn't know was that I came prepared too. The silence in that church was the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. Imagine hundreds of eyes on you, guests frozen mid-smile, whispers spreading like fire through dry grass. And me, standing there with a stack of divorce papers in my hands. My first instinct was disbelief. I thought maybe it was some kind of sick prank, maybe even mistake. But the look in Linda's eyes told me everything. She wanted this moment. She wanted to destroy me. I glanced at Emily. My daughter's eyes were wide, her lip trembling, clutching her bouquet like it was the only thing holding her up. She mouthed, "Dad, what's happening?" And in that instant, all I felt was rage. Rage at Linda for choosing this day of all days to tear our family apart. Rage that she would rather humiliate me than protect her own daughter's happiness. But Linda wasn't done. Oh no, she stepped closer, her voice just loud enough for everyone to hear. "You didn't think I'd let you play the perfect husband in front of all these people, did you?" Gasps rippled through the pews. Emily dropped her bouquet, tears already spilling down her face. The groom's family looked horrified. My brothers were shifting in their seats, ready to intervene. It was chaos. I wanted to yell. I wanted to scream. But instead, I just stood there, numb. And then came the dagger. Linda turned toward the guests and said, "Ask him where he was last night. Ask him how many lies he's told over the years. He's no saint, and he doesn't deserve to walk our daughter down the aisle." I swear I felt my heart stop. She wasn't just divorcing me. She was trying to erase me, to paint me as some monster in front of my own child. Emily's sobbing now. The groom looks lost, like he wants to step in but doesn't know how. My family is angry, shouting at Linda to stop, but she's eating up the attention. It was her stage, and she was performing. I looked down at the papers in my hand. Cold, heavy, final. 22 years of marriage reduced to a spectacle. But as I stood there, humiliated, something inside me shifted. That numbness hardened into steel. Linda thought she had destroyed me, but what she didn't know was that I had my own truth, my own ace. And if she wanted a war in front of everyone we knew, then a war she was going to get. I'll never forget the look on Emily's face, that look of pure devastation, like her whole world had just shattered in front of her. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about Linda and me anymore. This was about protecting my daughter from the circus her own mother had created. I steadied my breathing, held the papers in my hand, and for the first time since the whole thing began, I looked Linda dead in the eyes. "You think you've exposed me?" I said, my voice steady, calm, but sharp enough to cut through the whispers in the room. "No, Linda. All you've done is expose yourself." The room fell into silence again. Everyone was waiting. My brothers leaned forward. Even the pastor froze mid-step, unsure of what to do. I reached into my suit jacket pocket and pulled out a second envelope, one that I had prepared months ago, just in case. You see, I had known, not everything, but enough to suspect, enough to prepare. I handed it to the pastor and said, "Since we're airing dirty laundry in God's house, let's make sure the truth is heard." The pastor hesitated, but Linda's face told the whole story. She went pale. Her confident smirk vanished. She knew what was in that envelope. Inside were bank statements, hotel receipts, and even a series of text messages, all proof of her own affair, an affair she had been hiding for over a year. I didn't need to say much. I just looked at the crowd and said, "For 22 years, I gave everything to this woman, but while she was preparing to humiliate me, she was sleeping with another man. And not just any man, my best friend." Gasps, loud, horrified gasps filled the room. People turned toward Linda. Others covered their mouths in shock. Emily clutched her chest, whispering, "No, Mom?" Linda tried to grab the envelope from the pastor, but it was too late. My brother stood up, voices rising. My daughter backed away from her mother in disbelief. The groom's family was whispering fiercely, no doubt wondering if they had just married into the wrong family. And me, for the first time that day, I felt a strange sense of relief. Humiliation had turned into vindication. I looked at Linda and said, "You didn't ruin me today. Linda, you ruined yourself." The entire church was in uproar. Some people stood to leave, others demanded answers. But me? I walked over to my daughter, took her trembling hand, and whispered, "I'm still your father, and nothing, not even this, will ever change that." She collapsed into my arms, crying, and in that moment, I knew this war wasn't over. But I wasn't going to let Linda have the last word. The church erupted like a storm that couldn't be contained. Voices clashed in every corner. Some shouted for the ceremony to stop. Others begged for calm. The groom's mother nearly fainted, fanning herself with a hymnal while muttering, "This is an abomination, an abomination." Emily, my daughter, my child, was still clinging to me, her tears soaking through my shirt. She didn't care about the whispers, didn't care about the crowd. All she kept saying was, "Daddy, tell me this isn't real. Please, tell me it isn't real." I stroked her hair gently, whispering, "It's real, sweetheart, but you're not to blame for any of it. Not a single bit." Meanwhile, Linda, oh, Linda, she was a woman undone. The same woman who had stood so confidently minutes before was now trembling, her eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. She tried to speak, but every word she said drowned under the chaos. "David is lying," she shouted, her voice cracking. "Those papers don't prove anything. This is a trick, a setup." But no one was listening. My brothers, who had been holding back their anger all morning, finally stood and confronted her. "You brought shame to this family," one of them barked. "And you had the nerve to accuse our brother, while hiding your own filth?" Her mouth quivered, but she didn't answer. The truth had already bled out, and there was no stuffing it back inside. The pastor, poor man, tried desperately to calm things down. "Please, brothers and sisters, let us pray. Let us not turn this house of God into a place of fighting." But his voice was swallowed in the noise. And then the groom. He stood there, staring at Emily with a face full of confusion and despair. His lips parted like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. Finally, he turned to his own family and shook his head. I don't know if I can marry into this mess. Those words were like a dagger to Emily's chest. She pulled away from me, her eyes wide, and screamed, "No! Don't you dare blame me for what she did. I didn't ask for any of this." Her voice silenced the church. For the first time all day, every eye was on her. Her hands shook as she pointed at Linda. You destroyed everything. You've humiliated Dad. You destroyed my wedding, and now you expect me to stand here and act like it's all his fault? No, Mom. No. Linda reached for her daughter, desperate. "Emily, please." But Emily slapped her hand away. "Don't touch me," she cried, her body shaking with rage and heartbreak. The church was quiet now. No whispers, no gasps, just silence. Because everyone knew the truth. The wedding was finished. I turned to Emily, placed both hands on her shoulders, and said softly, "Sweetheart, maybe this isn't the day God planned for you. Maybe this isn't the man meant for you. But one day, when the time is right, you'll walk down that aisle with your head high, not bowed in shame." She broke down in my arms again, and I held her tighter than I ever had before. Linda collapsed onto a pew, sobbing hysterically. But it wasn't the sobbing of guilt. It was the sobbing of someone who had lost control. The wedding was over. The church was in ruins. And the truth had finally been laid bare. The courtroom fell silent. You could almost hear the sound of a pin dropping. My wife sat there with a smug smile, whispering something to her lawyer, as if she had already won. Then the judge opened the envelope. Inside were bank statements, screenshots of emails, and a signed confession from her boss, the man she had been secretly involved with. It revealed that not only had she been unfaithful, but she had also been funneling company funds into a private account with his help. Her lawyer's jaw literally dropped. He looked at her, stunned, realizing his entire case had just been torched in front of the judge. The judge leaned back in his chair, fixing my wife with a sharp, disappointed glare. "Do you realize what this means?" he asked sternly. My wife's face went pale. She tried to stammer out excuses, but it was too late. The gavel came down. Case dismissed. Custody awarded to the husband. And as for you, ma'am, you'll be facing criminal charges. My wife let out a piercing scream. She turned on me, her eyes filled with rage and betrayal. Not because of what she had done, but because she had been caught. I stood there calm, collected, holding back a satisfied smile. For once, justice had worked in my favor. That envelope hadn't just destroyed her case. It had destroyed the lies she built her whole new life on. And as she was escorted out, I realized something. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't yelling, fighting, or trying to hurt the other person back. Sometimes, the best revenge is the truth. That's how my marriage ended. Painful, yes, but it was also freeing. I walked out of that courthouse with my head held high, knowing I had protected my child and finally ended the games. And to anyone listening, if you've ever been through betrayal, heartbreak, or a messy divorce, know this. The truth always comes out. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more real-life betrayal stories that will leave you speechless. So tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have revealed the envelope in court or kept it hidden? Let me know in the comments. Because trust me, sometimes the ending isn't what you expect.